So you oppose giving Zelensky $45 billion?
I do.
Did you oppose him wearing green army fatigues when he went to the White House? Or everyone was like, I saw people like,
I think
he should have worn a suit.
Who cares? I don't give a damn.
I don't care.
Yeah,
like they're giving away, they're gutting this. First of all, I'm going to just come out and say it. I know, guys, I went to the White House. I didn't wear a suit either. But that's not the point. The point is, I'm not concerned that a dude showed up not wearing a suit. I know a lot of people are talking about the decorum of the White House. I'm like, bro, I'm less concerned about that and more concerned that they unfurl the Ukrainian flag and then say, Mitch McConnell's like, the top priority for America is to support Ukraine. At least that's what Republicans think. It's like, no, that's what you think, dude. Regular people are kind of like, why is gas expensive?
When I saw Biden put his hands on Zelensky, I was like, oh, I pictured him thinking it said, hello, presidential puppet. Hello, thank you. Because he's a puppet. They put him up and they put him in power in 2014 when they forced a revolution in Ukraine. Then they just installed this guy. I know maybe it's not popular, but
I will tell you, as a candidate for federal office, if you oppose giving unlimited amounts of money to Ukraine, they will call you a Putin puppet.
That's right.
That's like, how dumb is that? Like, Putin's bad, the invasion's bad, I condemn it. Okay, it's like we should look for ways to get those two countries to the negotiating table, and we all want a ceasefire, right? But remember when Rand Paul just stuck his neck out and said, hi, I can't block this, I forget, it was 40 billion at the time. But if we're going to send it, can we at least get an inspector general assigned to it? Can we get a spreadsheet so we know if this money is just being wasted or if it's just being stolen or what?
Did you hear Zelensky's wife went on like a shopping spree or something? 40 grand or something like that?
They say if you want to see who our next enemy is, look at who we're funding right now. I keep hearing that pop up. And I'm like, wait, so is Ukraine, are the Ukrainian Nazis our next war in 6 years?
Yep.
When Azov battalion?
When Russia, assuming if Russia ends up winning for whatever reason, and then all those weapons are sitting there among pro-Russian factions and they get armed and then start fighting against us, I wouldn't be surprised.
Well, they're not just sitting there. There's also intelligence reports detailing how there's already a very boisterous black market already in Europe right now with many of the advanced U.S. weapons being sold to, of course, criminal gangs, probably jihadists that now have surface-to-air missiles that could take down airliners and airplanes. So, when we're just sending weapons down there without any transparency or accountability, that's a recipe for disaster. This is the same administration and government that says it's too dangerous for you to have a handgun with so many rounds in it, but they're sending surface-to-air missiles on the black market to Europe right now, which is absolutely mind-boggling.
Here's what I think. That $45 billion, I would rather they spend it on a gigantic sign floating in outer space that says Vladimir Putin is a very bad person, because at least it's ours and we're spending it as we choose instead of just giving it away to Ukraine to fund a proxy war. Granted, let's be real, it's not even a proxy war anymore. It's a NATO conflict.
They were
with
really
Russia.
overt about it. They're like, they are our allies. Here's the Ukrainian flag. I don't know if they said ally. What's your vision of a ceasefire and drawdown of the militants in Ukraine right now?
I mean, I think we basically know the contours, right? It's like, the problem is Ukraine definitely wants Russia out of Crimea. I don't think that's in the U.S. interest. I don't think U.S. is going to force that, right? If Ukraine is simply not allowed to join NATO, and that's a line in the sand, but they can join the EU, let the Donbass have a plebiscite, they can figure out who's going to rule the Donbass. I mean, I think you could draw this. I'm not like an expert in this stuff, but I think you could draw a peace agreement that gives Putin some face-saving ability to get out of this thing, because it hasn't worked well for him. It gives Ukraine most of what they want, and it de-escalates so that we don't actually have nuclear missiles flying in 6 months. It just feels like Biden, I don't know. I actually don't know how with it he is, right? But it feels like he's kind of just in zombie-like fashion marching us towards nuclear war.
Yeah,
I still think the chances of that are very low, but of course the costs of that are so high. I mean, we're talking, if the missiles start flying, it's like 2 billion people dead in 48 hours. Like, you can't have that. And so why are we even flirting with pouring more gas on the fire by sending this money in this unaccountable way? It's a real problem. I don't want to be cavalier about it, but I fear that if you just put oxygen on it, are we actually threatening to make the problem worse? And no one has been able to give me a satisfactory explanation for why this is super okay and this is de-risking it. I actually think we might be adding risk to this system. And it's really complex.
No, we're escalating it every time we arm them. Every time we do that, we stop the possibility of any kind of peace deal moving forward. And there's a big possibility of a limited nuclear war there. I think also this conflict allows China to be stronger. It allows them to have more influence, especially with the actions that are happening because of this war affecting protecting the poorest people in the world. China's kind of stepping in while there's a big crisis that's built in there. And I kind of wanted to ask you, do you see China or Russia as the bigger threat to the United States? Because they're also working on crazy projects with Bill Gates with mini nuclear reactors. They're working on a lot of technology that we're not working on here. They have a lot of money, especially from Western elites. I see them as kind of a bigger threat myself. What about
China's a way bigger threat. Yeah. This is not debatable. It's like Russia under Putin. I think he's bad. Whatever. But no, they're incommensurate, right? And one of the risks, by the way, of just punishing Russia with so many sanctions, you throw the kitchen sink at them. The West risks pushing Russia into the arms of China, right? China would love that. China would love to have Russia as some sort of quasi-satellite state and this new alliance, new axis against the West, right? Why would we do that? That we should try to get out of this war with Russia and Ukraine. Right, we should try to force them to have a ceasefire, and then ultimately, I think it's all hands against China.
What
that just seems undebatable.
The CCP, I imagine you mean?
Yeah, CCP. CCP can't conflate all of China with the CCP, but actually you kind of can as long as the CCP is in power, because that's how totalitarianism works.
It's important. I think it's important to differentiate between the Chinese people because they're under that regime as well.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. Basically modern slaves. Right?
I look at like Eastern Ukraine. I think you mentioned the Donbass region. There's 2 freeways that go down into Crimea, and I wonder if there's a ceasefire and there ends up being like what 2 freeways are this? This is an interesting philosophy. East 97 and East 105, those 2 freeways that go down into Crimea. I mean, Russia wants a land bridge down to Crimea. You could give the Western freeway, East 95 to Ukraine and East 105 to Russia, and just have some sort of peaceful alignment. I know that Zelensky's very much like Ukrainian national sovereignty. We're not giving up our land. And period. That's it. And as long as the United States is funding that message, I don't see it happening. I think we really need an American push for a ceasefire. But to blockade Russia from the Black Sea makes no sense. Like when the Soviet Union fell apart, they gave Ukraine all that land basically to neuter Russia to make sure it didn't become another global hegemon. But at this point, it's like, it is a global hegemon. It's one of the 3rd most powerful country in the world, next to the United States and China, probably. And I think, I don't know, you make peaceful solutions. That's me from the outside looking in.
I think you just solved it
over there.
Just Ian politics.
I need to go to Moscow with Lex Friedman as my translator, and you, Luke. Well, you don't speak Russian right now.
I don't.
Okay. But you can go.
Polish. There's a big difference between the two.
And then I need to go to China with Jack Posobiec as my translator, and then they'll have their own translators they'll be keeping each other in check.
They're going to give you the intrusive COVID test up your, you know what?
Ain't happening. I would do it. I'll do it if it means global peace. I'll put it up my butt. You heard it here, folks.
Can we get that on a meme?
Yeah,
Can somebody meme that right
already
now?
Happened. Yeah.
Send it to me
for world peace.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, that's very brave of you.
Thanks,
Yes.
sir.
Yeah,
You're the hero. We all need Ian.
A lot of these conversations, I kind of feel like we have no idea what's really going on. That these intelligence agencies know way more about international affairs than we do. They don't justify or explain it to us for reasons of retaining power, but also for security reasons. So we're probably sitting here saying all this stuff. They're probably sitting back in their offices going like, you have no idea.
Yeah.
I'm sure that's right. And then also the opposite is somehow probably right. Like, maybe with all their information, they actually don't know what's going on either.
Yeah.
Right? Or remember WMDs that they're in Iraq. And it's
Yeah,
like, were they really or were they not?
Or was
Did
that
they just lie to us?
It was a psyop to convince the American people to support the war, just like the Gulf of Tonkin.
Yeah, no, they knew there was no WMDs. There was weapons inspectors that came out and they were silenced. They were ignored by the media. They were gagged by, of course, the federal government. There was individuals. The only chemical weapons that Iraq had was the ones that the United States sold to them when they were at war with Iran. And the U.S. government was financing both sides of that conflict, both sides of that war. And they knew. There was strategic papers out there showing specifically, you overthrow the government of Iraq, you're going to have Sunni Wahhabists take over the area. You're going to have massive sectarian violence. You're going to have Iran's sphere of influence be expanded and growing in the region, which is not for the American strategy, which is to align themselves with Saudi Arabia and the Sunnis. So this was a recipe for disaster, and they knew this. They had it all outlined. They knew, hey, we're going to be hitting a beehive here and causing problems for the next few decades. Screw it, we're going to do it anyway. The political policy papers were all there. Everything was lined up. I was screaming about this. I was there. I was saying, this is absolutely crazy. This is insane. There's no WMDs. This is just the project for a new American century realized in real life. And that's exactly what happened here.
So you're on the same age as like me and Luke. I think you might be the youngest person here, but like when's your
36. What do you got?
36?
Yep.
But your birthday's in
August,
March, and then Luke, when's your
July.
birthday?
You guys all 36? Shout out to the 36-year-olds out there.
But I'm bringing this up because I'm curious of back during the loose change era, the Ron Paul revolution. Were you following that stuff?
Oh yeah, I was a big Ron Paul guy in 07, 08.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I assume, like many others, that leads you to this position right now. But I was just wondering. I mean, I'm wondering.
I definitely would have preferred John McCain to Barack Obama.
Really?
Oh yeah. I see quite a bit of difference between them, but zooming out, not as much difference as I would have liked. And then you had Ron Paul, who was basically like talking about this set of questions that nobody was talking about. And I forget how he did in his primaries. I mean, the revolution did not happen, right? But it galvanized a lot of people. Like you said earlier, people believed in it. And I think he actually did he get like 10% in New Hampshire or something?
They cheated him. They cheated him in so many different ways, especially when it came to the polls, especially when it came to the corporate media coverage of him.
I remember following that. It's like they wouldn't mention him.
Yeah, they screwed him over. As John McCain was literally singing songs about bombing Iran. So, and also we have to understand what happened with Barack Obama was a direct result because of the but because of the destruction of the United States caused by George W. Bush. George W. Bush was put in a position of power. He abused that power. He destroyed the American Constitution. He destroyed the American economy. And because of that, we had a cultural pushback, just like we did during Vietnam and the JFK assassination, where, of course, we had the leftists become more prominent, mainly because, in my opinion, according to Bush, overreaching, doing too much, and becoming a totalitarian leader, which he was.
I thought Obama was an example of like hoping that we can put an innocent, charismatic guy in power and hoping that he'll save us like a superhero. And like he gets in and gets co-opted like everyone else in that position. When in reality, we need a ground up movement. And he promised like, I'll be there for you. And I think had we done a ground up attempt at like some sort of internet economic revolution, that he wouldn't have said no. He would have sat by and let it happen. Like he was looking to do it, but he couldn't do it from the office. There's too much.
That's the fascinating thing about Obama is he ran on hope and change, and it's supposed to be discontinuous from Bush, right? And he effectively harnessed voters' dissatisfaction, and I'm something new. And actually, his administration represented stasis and continuation and lock-in. And Wall Street got even richer, and the Patriot Act got even more fortified. You thought drone strikes under Bush were remarkable. Well, Obama just
they called him
pedal to the metal on that.
Obama. And they called him deporter in chief.
Yeah, he actually deported a lot of people.
That's right.
When I talked to the Border Patrol guys on the campaign, they would say, Trump was great, solid A. But then they'd say, not to be partisan about it, like Obama, like B, Biden F, in terms of how these administrations supported us, right? Like Obama actually understood it. And go back to an Obama speech from 08 or 09. It's like he sounds like a right-winger on immigration. He says, well, obviously a country has borders, and if you just let anyone in, you don't know who's coming in, then you can't have a country, And it's like, wow, you say that now, and wow, you're a bigot. But that was Barack Obama in 08. I'm not sure if he believed it, but he knew the politics of the time were such that he had to say that.
I would love to get just to talk to Barack in a room with no satellite phones beaming in and listening and hear like, how co-opted did you get, dude? I know that Michelle was trying to do the Let's Move campaign, get off sugar. It was sugar is bad for you. Let's move and cut sugar out of our diet. And then the sugar industry came in and was like, no. Let's make it an exercise campaign, not diet. So it was like, okay, now Let's Move is now an exercise campaign. Sugar industry, you're back in business. Katie Couric does a documentary.
Better than ever, right? Didn't the Let's Move campaign? It's like they saturated fat is bad. We're going to ban this 2% milk from schools. Yep. And instead they introduced like strawberry flavored skim milk, which is just like cancer and tons of sugar, but hey, it has no fat.
Yeah, high fructose corn syrup and seed oils.
Good intentions can actually backfire. Surprise.
Thanks for watching this clip from the Timcast IRL podcast. Hang out with us live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. and become a member over at timcast.com for uncensored, members-only shows exclusive. Thanks for hanging out, and we'll see you all next time.